Hey, storytelling Ryan here. I'm just going to talk about For the Lord RPG and a couple of different things. One of the biggest ones is the dice mechanics that I'm using and why I'm using that. I think it's a tough thing to first grasp, and it's sort of been on my mind because it's not quick and easy, especially for kids and non RPG people. And I've noticed that as I'm playtesting it. But I'm just like addicted to it, stuck to it, because it does give you a long-term fun factor for people who want to commit to it, you know. So that's the problem. So this game is almost really for hardcore RPGers and not for beginners. And I'm trying to like figure that out, but like how to do that. Because there are certain games that have given up the long term of it so that it's very quick and easy to access, like Shadow Dark. And a bunch of other OSRs. They're very easy to grasp and play right out of the bat because they're simple. But then, you know, they start to break down as you play longer term games and you want more and more stuff and blah, blah, blah. And kind of, you know, they have other mechanics to limit that. But at some point it's like, oh, you hit a certain level and then it gets kind of unbalanced. And that's, you know, and that's just what it is. So I've solved that problem. But the problem I now have is like getting kids and adults to grasp it quickly and move on. So let me just go through it again. It's just because I want what I want to do. Okay, so I did a little bit of a search here, and yeah, I read through dice mechanic role playing games, and these guys are, man, like programming. They're creating graphs, and I'm like, I'm not going to go there. But none of them have my thing. But they're all trying to figure out a bell curve, kind of a happy thing to do to avoid said, you know, situation. And he's got different ways of doing it. And basically this is what it is, right? A bell curve. And here's the RPG one. When I first looked up bell curve, of course, I got inundated with climate change bell curve. But anyway, so this is like, you know, everyone's trying to figure out a way to like figure out a good bell curve type of thing, where as you go up in levels and get magic items and get upgrades, it doesn't suddenly get overpowering, right? It's sort of, maybe it shifts the paradigm, it shifts the Overton window, it shifts the bell curve. And that's, I think, what I've figured out or solved, is that as your characters get more and more stuff, because I like to give out stuff, and we all like to give out, you know, magic items or whatever, or bonuses, and they get to look for treasure, and that's that's sort of the addictive feed to a role-playing game, right? Even in video games, computer games, and in role-playing games is getting stuff to upgrade your characters. And at some point, you know, it gets really fun to do that, but at some point they become so powerful that it's become superheroish and kind of ridiculous. And then of course the GM then has to add in a bunch of crazy stuff to balance that out. And I think I have figured out a way now, because it's so, you know, I'm not going to go through these graphs and figure this out exacto mundo. And I know I had someone on my Discord do it, this guy, and I looked for it, I couldn't find it. So you know, he posted something about my mechanics and how it worked, but I can't remember what, I couldn't find it anyway on my Discord. But I should talk to the guy, but I just want to do this video. Okay, so this is the dice mechanics, right? I chose D20 because we love D20. I love seeing the nat 20. I was playing Star Wars RPG, and which has just a dice pool system where you throw a bunch of dice down. It's all symbols. And I noticed with my daughters who played my D&D, and who got, even the non-player daughter who played, you know, when she got some 20s, she was all in, you know, like in the game, being all crazy and hilarious. But in this one, I noticed there was none of that. They missed that with a dice pool, because there's no D20. There I know there's the crit in there, but it's kind of minor. Like it's like a little mini crit, not a, you know, whatever. And when you get it, you have to then figure out if a bad crit subtracts from it. So there's no like immediate response to a nat 20. You have to like sort of figure out the die, and that's I want the best of both worlds. I wanted a D20 and I want a dice pool system, but I wanted it to work based on continually getting a bunch of upgrades, but you don't become so overpowered that you just take, you know, you take over the game as a superhero, or the world as a superhero type of thing. And all I can throw at you now are you know, gods or demigods or whatever. So the D20, I love that you get a nat 20 and you get a nat 1. Those are both hilarious to me and awesome. You get your trade. You get a little bit of a constant, which is the trade. It is a constant number, plus 2, plus 3, plus 4, plus 5. Plus 4 is where, and 5 is where I really want to keep the maximum. And then, and I kind of don't really say it in here. I think I did, but I don't, I can't even remember what I wrote on all my rules. It's somewhere in here. I must have made a note of it, but anyway, I'm not going to search for it right now. But like 5 and 6 is like 5 is you generally the one person that has a plus 5 or plus 6 is augmented by the power armor. Other than that, no one has above a 4 or 5, I think, as far as that goes. But let me get back. Where's the dice pool thing? Where did I shift my page here? Okay, die ranks to dice pool. What is it? You get your D20 and your trait, right? You get that. That's typical in a D20 game. And I love the D20 die. Plus having a constant number of your inherent ability score, or as I call it, trait. So, but now here's what you get beyond that is the die ranks. And the die ranks can go from 1 to 5. I don't stop there. Like, see, in a lot of games, like in the Star Wars RPG, you stop at 5 ranks. And I didn't like that concept. I wanted, and it was funny as I saw how villains, they would, in the villains, you add these arbitrary additional difficulties because they're tougher characters, right? And I felt that mechanic was very weird and not conducive to the game. So like if you had Darth Vader, he would get an extra 2 level difficulty of things, and just to make them harder. But it was no player has that, Anyway, so what I love about this is you can continually build up these die ranks, to 40, 50, 60, whatever. Not that anyone has. And all you do is divide it by 5. Whatever it is. So let's say you got 13 die ranks, and I'll explain what the die ranks can be: skills, blessings, high ground, your magic items, everything that adds to your bonus, all combined to die ranks, right? And I say things now in a die rank way, like you get plus 2 die rank armor, plus 1 die rank to hit laser weapon, a plus 1 die rank high ground, plus 1 die rank flashlight, whatever it is, plus 1 die rank tool, plus 2 die rank tools for weapon repair or whatever it is, they get to combine all these die ranks, and I give them inspired die, which is like inspiration points, but they're die ranks. And so they can put those die ranks in there, and they can, so they, whenever they want to do something, they can add in these die ranks. Now, does it slow the game down? I don't think so, because we do sometimes stop to combine die ranks and figure it out. I get that, and maybe it slows it down a little bit. But I like it because it's part of the process of describing the situation as well, because every die rank kind of has a meaning to it. Like, it's dark in there, so that's a die rank. It's or whatever those are the penalties, but that's fine too. It's dark in there. It's wet. That's a die rank. It's windy. That's a die rank. Those are adding to the difficulty. But so when we do combine die ranks, we kind of stop and combine die ranks at some point. It's usually something that they're really trying to do, like really matter of factly. If they're fighting, generally that goes pretty fast. They know what die ranks to add. I mean, if they're paying attention to their character, they prepare that ahead of time. I'm going to bless myself. I'm going to use these. Here's my skills. I attack. And sometimes I'll throw a couple die ranks their way because of you got the high ground. The character, the creature is stunned or whatever. Whatever he's wounded, I give you. He's wounded 3 die ranks. You get those 3 die ranks to add to your attack. That kind of thing. So I will. It goes pretty quick. The time it really slows down is when and it should slow down these times, is when they do like engineering or upgrading. Then we all stop for a moment and figure out what are you getting together to do this project. The laboratory, the tools, the blessings, a good meal before, a good rest might give you some die ranks before you start. What kind of high-tech and low-tech gear or supplies are you using to do that engineering upgrade? So it does slow down at that point, but during combat stuff, it generally goes pretty fast because we're not throwing in a bunch of stuff, right? We're doing the skills and the weapons and the stuff, and they already got that already kind of calculated out. And it's not a hard calculation. It's adding all the die ranks together, dividing it by 5, and that's your dice pool. It turns into a dice pool. So if you divide it by 5, let's say you have, like this example here, it says 13 die ranks. You've gathered 13 die ranks for your combat. Divided by 5, it's 2 remainder 3. So the 2 is 2 d12s and a remainder 3, which is a d8. So 2 d12s and a d8, and you keep the highest. Now, why am I doing this? Why am I making it like that? Because I want you to have the freedom to continually upgrade stuff and gather more cool stuff. but you don't become overpowered. You move that bell curve slowly up, right? But you can always have a chance to fit. Here, let me jump. Let me just grab a bell. Okay, so like this one right here. You're trying to. Okay, here the first one here. You're trying to shift this bell curve. Can you see the whole that? No, it's a little cut off over there. Okay. Here, I'll use this one right here. Which one are you showing here? Oh, I can't tell even. It's so it's so blurry there. All right, you understand. The bell curve shifts, right? Like this one right here. Does it show at this one? I'm sorry, the screen is so dark or contrasty there. Anyway, the bell curve shifts, but you still have a chance of hitting the low part of it, right? You still have a chance of failing, which is nice, and then you have a better chance of succeeding. And the difficulty number, obviously, I change, so that matters as well. And if you're always doing a 12, that's fine, and then you have a better chance of succeeding. But many times, and this is true in life, which is wonderful. Many times, not many, a third of the time, it seems, when they do an engineering thing and they really get all these diagrams together to upgrade or install a comlink or whatever it is they're trying to do, an upgraded comlink, there has been failures, and it's been great because it's not. I don't like that there's a constant, consistent success at something, right? I want you to work for it even as you get more and more experience, and that's true in life, right? People that become scientists or engineers, they fail less and succeed more, but they're still failing. Same with medieval armored combat. I succeed more than I fail, but I do fail plenty, in it. And when we do fighting or duels or whatever, my average is up, but I still get the downs, and that's kind of what I want it to be like for this game. So that's why I'm keeping this in there, because not only do you get the D20 and the trait, but you also have this dice pool that really adds a flavor to it, and you can play with that dice pool too, as even in a homebrew way. The minimal things I've done here is, and I've never, if you get two double ones in any of the dice pools, especially if you get really big ones, you get a fumble, and that fumble could be minor to major depending on how stressful the situation is. Obviously, if you're doing research, the fumble would just be probably losing some supplies or extra need for things, or you break something, but you still can succeed if you roll two double ones within that dice pool, because you can still have like a 12 in that dice pool and your nat 20 and your whatever else. So this is a fun little thing where you can actually fumble and succeed at the same time in the dice pool if you roll the two double ones. Any 7+ though negates a fumble, so that's kind of fun too. That's helped out a lot of the characters when they've rolled their D20, their trait plus whatever's their dice pool, and the majority of their dice pools will be within the first 5 die ranks, right? And then if it gets higher, it's because they've really worked on that skill. But they will get a 7+, and that will gain any nat 1, and that's come through quite a bit. I'm kind of surprised at how often I feel like that has happened. Any 7+ also. So you get a kind of a minor exploding thing happens, is that any die that's a 7+ gets all of those get to add to the result. Previously I had that anytime you get 2 7+, all the dice explode. But man, one time this guy rolled and he had 2 7+, and it added up to 60 when he was preaching, because he threw in all this stuff, and I was like, okay, we need to fix that. I let him keep it. He converted all the goons and everything to his side, but and he didn't charm them, right? They were still self-aware. He wasn't forcing them, but he really convinced them that their evil combative ways were not helping, the slavery and stuff. But they still had their own thoughts and stuff. But they weren't fully converted, by the way. In this game, when you convert someone as a Christian, you don't fully convert them. You just stop them from being violent, and so that you can bring a church into the community. That's sort of the epitome of that. To become a full Christian, it's a role playing thing where they join the church and theology and fellowship and all that. But so now instead of doing two 7s explode the dice, every 7 or higher gets added to the roll. So that's a nice little thing there. So the die rank is I've just until I'm convinced otherwise by players or anyone else. I'm keeping it in there. It is difficult to sell initially. But it's really there for the end, because it really, like, we have two characters that have over 100 glory points, which is kind of like levels. It's experience points, And we have other characters that are 50 glory points. And I could bring in a new character at 0 glory points right now into that group. Totally fit in. No problem. And I would throw in the same creatures. I would not lighten up the creatures or have lighter creatures up against the 0 guy. I wouldn't purposely throw the horrible thing at him, but obviously he or she should not charge after the scariest encounter in the group or whatever. But it's not an issue. Like I don't have like some big demon god coming in and challenging the 100 glory point players, and then the 0 have to just stay in the back. I don't need that. The 100 glory point characters still have to, still are human. They're still human. They're still mortal. I think their hit points are maybe 20 to 20, maybe 30 at the most. Great armor, great skills, but they can still fumble and fail and flop and miss and and then the 0 level could literally come in and help them. It's save the day. Man, I think that's even happened a few times too. So it's great. And when you have 100 glory points, you do have more options, more things, more chances of success of stuff, but you're still a human being. You're still a human being in the game. You're still in it, So it's been working out great. The other aspect of die ranks to dice pools that I really like, and again, is another thing that's, say, somewhat difficult to grasp, but boy, do I love using it. And thusly, I don't have to look up tables or anything, is the die rank result. So it's basically the same thing. You're rolling whatever you want. In most cases, like in combat, you don't need a die rank result. I could change it to that, but I'm not going to, at least not in this edition. So when you roll a die rank, you get whatever all these are. You hit and roll your damage now. You hit or miss, you succeed or fail, right? That's a lot of the times. That's all I do. But there's times where I want to do, and there's a lot of times where I want to do die rank result. I want to know how much you succeed by, and that really helps me determine then the final thing. So, and one of the simplest ways is prayer, cooking, and comforts. So you can roll for prayer, cooking, or say setting up a comfortable camping area. You can do any of these things, and I want to know how much you succeed by, because how much you succeed by then determines how much you've given to the other characters. And that's really just I give it whatever the difficulty number is, whatever you succeed above it, that's the success, but you have it. You have that success. So if 12 is the difficulty and you roll a 22, I just want to keep it simple. Roll a 22 total on your prayer. Half of that, or difference is 10, right? 12 to 22 minus 12 is 10. Half of that is 5. So you get 5 die ranks that you can now give to the other players. Like for inspired die, you inspire them with your prayer, so they get, or you can take one yourself and give one to each, or whatever, you split it up however you want. Same with cooking. You cook a really good meal, you roll a 22, the difficulty is 12, and remember that 22 roll, right, is die ranks. You roll a d20 plus your trait, which is an intellect for crafting, and then you add die ranks. It could be your skill, it could be the food ingredients. You can have a salt. I have salt. All right, that's 1 die rank. I've got the sausage. Ooh, that's 2 die ranks. I've got some onions. You know what? I'm giving you a die rank for that. I've got this great cooking gear, these great pots that are, those are 2. That's a 2 die rank, German, steel, whatever, cooking gear. See, so you can add all these die ranks in, and that's the thing that's fun about this too, is they figure out all these die ranks they can add to their roll. And then they roll, but you can still fail. That's the wonderful thing about this. You can still fail, but it's really great because the bell curve is moving up, and because of all these ingredients, because of what you're doing, maybe you throw in a blessing of your own, or you ask the clergy to bless your food. Whatever it is, you're adding all these diamonds together, you get the roll, and generally speaking, you roll pretty decent. I rolled a 22, or I rolled a 28. Wow, 28. Woo! So 28 minus 12 is 14. 7 die ranks. Everyone, great meal. Split up 7 die ranks, and they get it as inspired die. They get it as inspired die. So that upgrades is another one here. I'm just going through something. Surgery. Okay, surgery is the die ranks themselves. So let's say you roll whatever and you get 5 die ranks, right? So that surgery actually reduces a wound by 5 die ranks. So that's cool. So someone gets wounded, 5 die ranks, you surgery them, and obviously a surgery should be over time, right? And there still needs to be rest, and use common sense. But if it's a day or two, I would give them a day or two. They're awesome. And it could be that the wound is a 5 die rank painful thing. And let's say they roll a surgery where they roll 5 die ranks. And that's another one where I got my medical stuff, I got my doctoring skills, I got my hospital, whatever. Adding die ranks, that's a serious roll right there. But I would make the difficulty of it very difficult, because if a character has a 5 die rank wound, that's fatal, near death. And so I would add those 5 die ranks to the difficulty. I would roll a 5 die rank. I start with 12. Then if they have a 5 die rank wound and you're trying to do a surgery on them, I would roll a 5, or I'd have the guy roll it, or I'd roll it. 5 die ranks is a D12, right? D4, D6, D8, D10, D12. I'd roll it, whatever that number is. I'd add it to the 12. Let's say 6, 18. So now the surgery is difficult. It's an 18, not a 12. It's an 18. So he has to roll above an 18. So he has to roll a 28, total to get the 5 die ranks, to patch him up and send him on his way. Again, common sense. They need a rest. The next day they got to be careful. Blah blah blah. Whatever. However you want to role play that out. You need a week of rest still. You could do that. It could be mean. I don't know. Game wise though, I would not be that mean. If they have to start fighting again, I would it wasn't that bad. It would have killed him, but it wasn't that bad. So you patched it up. It's a cast now, but he can still fight. Whatever. You can do that too. Just to move the story along. Healing, same thing, but one little difference I make for healing is, and this is just vitality, not the wound. Surgery is for grievous wounds, because there's 2 types of damage. Grievous wounds are really deadly. Healing, vitality, when you go down to vitality, that could kill you too. But vitality has to do with cuts and bruises and exhaustion. Plenty of times I have lost a battle because I just, I went down to 0 vitality in medieval armor combat just because I'm exhausted. I can't fight anymore. The next thing you're going to do now is grievous wounds on me, or kill me, kind of thing. But so healing, when you do that one and you get the dice pool, let's say you get 5 die ranks, that's a D12, your success roll. That's a D12. Roll that, and then that heals what heals them. Now sometimes that could be a 1, and I get it. That's kind of you rolled really high. You did so great. You got 5 die ranks, and now it's a D12. You roll it, it's a 1. I'm still leaving it in there. I like it. It makes the game a little harder, a little tougher. But the way I make healing a little bit better. The way I make healing a little better is that if you get a really good high roll, like say you get 7 die ranks, 7 die rank success, right? That's 14 above the 12 or whatever. You get 7 die ranks, so that's 5 for the D12, and then 2 left over So 2 left over is a D6. So you get to roll them and add them together. So that's a one time where you get to actually add your dice pool together to heal them up, the vitality points. So there's that. Same with repairs. Same kind of thing. You get to add the dice together because the repairs is repairing a ship and vehicle hulls, robot hulls, whatever the integrity of the hull. So there's that. Treasure. When you're searching around, there's a direct result as well in salvage. So when you're looking around for salvage, and I like to do tables where I could do it either way. I could set the treasure already predetermined, and then once you find it, there it is. Or what I really like doing here is I have tables where you can find salvage, and getting a 12 on that table finds like a rare item type of thing, or getting an 11 finds a really cool item. Getting a 10, 11, 12s are like kind of like the cool items. The rest are like supplies, right? But it's hard to get a 12 because you got to roll same thing and get 5 die ranks, then you get a D12, then you roll that, then you get like a 1, 2, or 3. So it's hard to get that 12, and you only get that a good chance to get into 12 is when you roll an at 20 salvage. And let's say you get 5 die ranks or more, you get to roll both of those, double it, and keep the highest kind of thing. It's in the salvage rules. But there's tables there where you will get die rank results, and then those die rank results turn into rolling on those tables, and 12 being the highest on those tables, which goes to a relic table. So it's just, okay. So I love doing die rank results because die rank results really covers like kind of for me all the different things that you could do in a role playing game and that need that sort of how well do you do it. And I've seen other role-playing games where they sort of have something sort of like this, but they have like pages after pages after pages of options and tables and symbols and numbers and graphs and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I just want this, So initially, this is a hard thing to look at and grasp, and it's kind of a bummer for me to try to sell this to new people. Obviously, a lot of things in this game are hard to sell. It's a Christian role-playing game. You know, that right there is hard to sell. But this is one that's been game mechanic wise, I love. But and I hope I don't have to remove it to sell. I hope I don't have to dumb down the game to sell it. Especially for like kids and stuff. Because I remember like Advanced Dungeons and Dragons when I was a kid. Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, right? It was a mess. But man, I loved just going through it. Never really understood it. And actually, most of us seem to learn how to. It seemed to be an oral tradition how you learned how to play D&D back in the day. Even though I don't know where the oral tradition came from. Who started and how it got across America, but or some genius figured it out in each location, then orally taught everyone. The oral tradition of teaching all the others in groups how to play it, and then that spread. I don't know, but it was very weird. But I learned how to play it through oral tradition first, through playing it with some older kids. Then I took got the books and took it to my same age group and taught them how to play it. So that was really the way I learned. So I didn't even necessarily learn reading the books itself in the beginning. But anyway, so this is the die mechanic thing and how I'm doing it. And I just, I'm just looking at. I just don't want to get rid of it. But I know it's one big impediment I've noticed for new players or people that are into it. It takes them a while to grasp this. But I'm going to keep it in there because, man, I can see the depth in it that, can go out and out, like I said, with the characters. People that have played with for almost 60 episodes, and then a new player comes in and works fine. And I am not throwing harder and harder stuff at them. It's not getting unbalanced or unwieldy or crazy. Like when I was doing the D&D stuff, I was getting a little annoyed by it after their 8th, 9th, 10th level, just because of how much more stuff I had to do, how much, like, as far as like creating unnecessarily complicated villains. And I didn't even like the spell systems as they got those higher levels, because it just got, I don't know. Or just maybe I just wasn't smart enough, to do it. I don't know. I just don't want to do it that way. Or maybe I'm just too dumb. I don't know. That could definitely be it. But anyway, so this is the dice mechanics. I really just want to go over it again because that's what I am. When I go to YouTube to sort of get RPG influences, I have no Christian RPGs to look for. There's none. I mean, that I'm aware of, where you're actually a Christian playing a Christian, evangelizing, church planning, speaking about the faith, speaking about how the church culture is the culture of freedom and liberty, and the non-church culture is of slavery, child trafficking, which we see today. It's exploding again because there are no, like I say, white colonizers, which is code word for church culture in the across the globe. The church culture is in retreat. We're hiding. We're silencing ourselves to get along, and it's not working. It's not working. So back in the 18th, 17th, 18th, 19th century, the church was loud, boisterous, fighting, rebuking, revealing. We're not erasing paganism. We're not erasing the evils, but we're going around and confronting the evil. And the British colonizers confronted the evil in Saudi Arabia. They confronted the evil in India. I read about it from an Indians that the white colonizers, before Gandhi, when they went in there, they saved the Hindus and the Indians from the Islamic jihad that was coming down for them. They saved them. And then after they left, look, now they're just warring again. And it's getting worse, right? But India has the bulwark of a democratic, very strong democratic and economic system. Not that strong, but strong enough to repel the Islamic thing that's happening there. Not to, they're Hindu, so. But the Christianity there is obviously repressed right now because they're not really being that protected. And Christianity is a problem for Hindus and Islam, obviously, and for Hindu especially because, well, for both, but for Hindus, well, Islam because all unbelievers, but for Hindu because the Christian churches there go for the outcasts, the slave. They free the outcasts, and the Hindus don't like that because the outcast is a slave class. Slave class in India right now. There's a slave class in India right now under Hinduism, and anyway, but the church culture doesn't accept that. The church culture does not accept the slave class. By the way, Islam does accept a slave class, and it was the church that went in and confronted, stopped them, at least back in the day. Now, not so much. Anyway, so this game is about bringing back the church culture. It's about waking up you guys to being a church again, being evangelists. It's about having fun. The goal here for you is not to destroy your RPG culture at all, but to get you to build it up into Christian culture. So my suggestion then is that you look to start a game with other Christians out of your church. Try it out with them. Play test it. Contact me. I will help you. I will play test it with you or walk you through it some more. So you can get the hang of it. I've got a ton of games on my channel because I am walking the walk. I'm talking the talk and walking the walk on the YouTube. I'm putting it all out there. Not, the games are not edited. We're going nutsos. Anyway, so that's my For the Lord RPG. I got to get to finish my Dark Ages campaign. I'm working on it. It's getting pretty exciting. I'm kind of going crazy here, but with some cool stuff. But I got to keep going, man. All right, in the game of life, roll holy dice.